All right,
Well,
BJ.
good morning. It's good to see you all. We are happy that you're joining us for this preaching and planning workshop for Advent. Advent's an important season in the life of the church. We get to celebrate some really fun things, birth of Jesus, or prepare for that, and then we get to celebrate that at Christmas, and then move on through the season of Epiphany. And so we started talking about that, and Matt and I did, and he was like, "Well, why don't we just do a workshop on that and help pastors prepare?" That can be a stressful time of the year because you've got so many other things going on in the life of the church that it's hard to set aside time to plan and to do it well. And so Matt has helped us draw all kinds of resources together. He'll help us go through that today and share a little bit about some tips and plans for preaching and working through this season of Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany. Well, I wanted to introduce you to the Reverend Dr. Matt Charlton. Matt has been a friend of mine for a long time. We went to school together at Vanderbilt, and Matt served as a pastor in the conference. He has been a teacher at several spots over at Belmont University. He taught some religion classes. He's now on as an adjunct out at the Pacific School of Religion. He's done some course of study work, taught that. He's worked at the General Board of Discipleship. So he's versed in lots of areas of the United Methodist Church. Also serves over on the I'm forgetting the name of it. The Oxford School of
Oxford Institute of Methodist
Oxford
Theological
Institute. There you go.
Yeah.
And so Matt's done a lot of things, and he's a really good teacher. So I invited him to come and share with us during this workshop and help us pull all these resources together. So thanks, Matt, for agreeing to do this and helping us today.
Absolutely. So you should now see a slide deck in front of you on your screen, and we're going to walk through this. And part of the time is going to be doing some introductions first to get to know one another. You all probably know each other really well. I don't know you really well. I'd like to know you a little bit better. So we'll do a little bit of time with that. And then I'm going to walk through the seasons of Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany with some resources and information that might be helpful in the ways that you think about planning and programming for that time. And then what we'll do is break into maybe 2 or 3 groups. You should have received in an email from Chris a link to a Google Drive. And in that Google Drive is a doc file called, it's the planning document for this. And it is, the name on it should be like 00 Advent, Christmas, Epiphany planning document. The 00 is just there to help me keep the stuff I'm working on at the top of my file list. Just a trick I learned from Doug Meeks at Vanderbilt, actually. So the planning time that you see on the agenda will be for in those smaller breakout groups to spend some time working through that together to see if you can share some ideas with each other. I've tried to load a number of materials in that planning document. It is one that you can type directly into and save on your own computer. So you can start taking your own notes in there and use it for your own planning and preparation purposes. Then we'll come back from the small group time, do some discussion together, and wrap up. We've blocked 2 hours for this. What we'll do, this first part will take around 30 minutes to walk through the seasons. I'd like to spend about up to 45 minutes in the planning time. We might need less, we might need more. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in there. What you can do when we get into the planning time breakout groups, if you feel like you've reached the end of what you can do together, to just drop a chat in Zoom that you're done, and then we'll just bring everybody back. I think Zoom will give me the ability to kind of walk around the breakout groups. I think we'll do 3. So I'll just drop in from time to time in the various groups to be part of your discussion. Okay, Well, so
Oh, sit there.
there's various memes of Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" going around right now, and we're not even through eating the bags of candy corn that we bought for Halloween. This is especially true for you as preachers and local church leaders. You really do have to plan months in advance for things that your congregation will experience later in the year. And your advanced planning helps your worship and preaching be better, especially in these busy seasons like Christmas and Easter. So to spend some time in advanced planning will really pay benefits in the worship life of your church. So Christmas is coming. Watch out. So some quick introductions. Tell us who you are, then say one thing that you love about Advent, Christmas, or Epiphany. And then if you were in power, in charge of everything, what is one thing you would change about the season? So let's call on the district superintendent, BJ Brack, to start off. So I just ask that you be brief so we can get to the material.
Well, I am BJ Brack, the new Harpeth River District Superintendent. One thing that I love about Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany is all the family time and special worship services that we have at church. If I could change one thing about the season, it's that we rush so much that we oftentimes miss important things. And we try to cram everything in so early that everybody's, really Christmas is December 24th into 25 and on. And we think the season of Christmas is December 1 through 12, or we do everything too early. So I would change it and push everything back a little bit in December.
All right.
All right. I'll call on Marie King.
Oh, here it comes. All right. I don't know if you can see me. I'm sitting on the side. And so what I would change, is that the question?
One thing you love about Advent, Christmas, or Epiphany, or all together, and one thing you would change if you could.
Oh, what I love is the excitement around celebrating the birth of Christ. I love the excitement of
recording in progress.
The excitement around exploring each time, going back and exploring more about the events surrounding the birth of Christ. Especially, I like when I would like to explore more about how the innkeeper's wife role was in the birth of Christ. I remember hearing Reverend Michael Williams share one of his stories about the birth of Christ and shared it from the innkeeper's wife's perspective. What I would change, if I could change all of the commercialization that happens around so we could focus on the true meaning of Christmas, that is what I would change.
All right. Well, how about the others in the room with you, since we're on Marie?
I like the preparation leading up to Christmas.
Say so. Speak.
I like the preparation leading up to Christmas, all the excitement. I like all of that. And I like to prepare or you help someone else prepare for it. And if I could change, if I could change anything, what would that be? All the rushing. I like the preparation, but it requires a lot of rushing. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. My name is Willette Reynolds, my Episcopal United Methodist Church.
Great, thank you. And you have two others there with you too, I think.
My name is Gloria Kane, and I enjoy the holidays because a lot of it is sharing it with family and friends. I think one of the things that I would really like to change about that is I don't like to see that there's so many gifts that people purchase for each other, spending all the money, and you get together and you see how much they either don't like it or won't like it. And I would like to see that we enjoy Christmas time with family and not be so commercial with all the gifts that everyone wants to share with each other. And half of the gifts you don't do anything with. They sit there and they don't go anywhere. And one of the things I would really like to change is I'd like to let each season work for itself before you start bringing out all the Christmas and the Thanksgiving all together. Let's get through Thanksgiving and then let's start Christmas. Because you go into the stores and all you see right now is Christmas. Yeah, I would like for just, Thanksgiving be Thanksgiving. I like for Christmas to be Christmas and not have it all out there rushed.
Thank you. You have one more there.
Yes, good morning. My name is Gail Norman, and I agree with my pastor, but I love the family and the church family. And I also love the food. So, but yes, and as far as changing, I agree with all the other ladies.
Yeah. All right, Marie, who are you going to call on?
Lynn. Lynn, the pastor of Liberty.
Thank you, Marie. Kiska, you all have such really good ideas. Pretty much said it all. But I will say one thing that I love about the Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany season is how the darkness changes to light in our natural world on about the 22nd. The 21st is the shortest day. And then on the 22nd, little by little, the light starts to come back. The symbolism is so beautiful, and the rhythm of the natural world and the season of Christmas and Advent and Epiphany, I really find remarkable. But then one thing that I would change if I could, it would be the darkness. People, get depressed. They're more vulnerable. In the Tennessee area, if the weather is bad, I remember 2 years ago, it was so cold. People couldn't get out. And that made it hard. And sometimes it's hard to see the light through all that darkness. So I love the balance, and I like how it reflects our human fragility, but also the miracle of the Christ child. So sorry for that weirdness.
Oh,
I am going to, let me see, I can't see all the people. I'm going to call on Charlotte.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charlotte Penhalker. It's good to be here with you all in this virtual space. Well, one thing I like about Advent, there are many things I like about the Advent and Christmas season, but I really enjoy caroling because that brings back so many memories growing up. I love the Christmas music and the carols, youth group memories, growing up in India, and so much fun we had. So I carry with me all of those memories. So music is one thing that it really gets me close to the season. But also decorating Christmas tree with my children has been a tradition with me. And so I enjoy doing that with my children and family. One thing I would like to change is definitely all that commercialization and the stress that comes with shopping. If that can just, and just the stress of doing things that in that season people expect you to do, that's something that I struggle with. And if I can step back from, that aspect or concept of doing in that season and what it really means. So, yeah. And maybe I like to call on Matt.
On me?
Yes, we didn't hear from you.
I will say, if you want to change the view on Zoom so you're speaker focused, or you can see the gallery up on the right-hand side. There's a little grid that says view. You can kind of play with your view on your screen. So, and that way you can kind of get it the way you like. The thing I like about Christmas really are the Christmas lights. Everyone, or a lot of people putting lights out, sparkling up their house and doing things like that. Similarly, the thing I could change, I would like it if some Christmas elves would come and take down my Christmas lights when it's time for them to go back in the house. All right. So let me call on, I see James down there.
Yes, I'm James Scruggs, and I am overjoyed about being with the group today. And what I like about Christmas is the spirit that seems to be in the air. People are happy and they're saying, greeting strangers and expressions of joy that comes out only during the Christmas season. And if I could change anything, I'd want to have that expression throughout the year, that every day would be like the atmosphere at the annual conference when people are greeting and loving and seeing friends that they haven't seen in a long time. That's quite a beautiful atmosphere without the negative part.
Yeah.
And I love the lights. I love to go out and look at the lights that people have put up to express Christmas.
Thank you. Looks like you have two you can pick on, James. You can do Jim or Michael.
I would call on Jim.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Melrose. And what I love about this season is the anticipation. Um, just seeing the excitement build. I've got 8 grandkids that live locally, and I even enjoy going to their Christmas programs at school and at church. So what I would change is I would like for us to very consciously wait to celebrate Christmas. Let's enjoy the Advent and the preparation, and then put an emphasis on the Christmas season as the liturgical season, as opposed to the gift giving season.
So actually, it's Michael, and there's also Chris.
I would call on some. I'm going to call on Chris. I'm going to put her on the spot.
I actually really agree with Jim. I really love the anticipation of that build up to Christmas. But I also, and the thing I'd like to change is to make Christmas. The old 12 days of Christmas starts on the 25th, and get back to some of the more spiritual understandings of the incarnation, and less of the what has been said before, less of the commercialization. Michael, it's your turn.
Okay. Well, it's my favorite holiday, so there's nothing I don't like about Christmas. The best for me is that it brings out the best in just about everybody. So people that aren't cordial and friendly and outgoing, they seem to be different at Christmas. The only thing I would change is that Christmas is pretty much seen as the 24th till sometime in the afternoon on the 25th when family goes home, and it's all about how much I can get, and it's like how fast can we rush and get it over with.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. The goal of this little exercise was both to learn a little bit about each other, but also to kind of prime your thinking about these seasons and what you enjoy about it, and also what you would like to see different, which might be a way that could inform your planning and preaching. And specifically, a couple of you mentioned feeling rushed in the season. One of the goals of this workshop is to help you as a pastor feel less rushed, knowing that you've done, in essence, 7 weeks of worship planning in October for the worship that you're going to lead in December and January. And so specifically trying to address that particular concern. I know I've been a local pastor. I've served churches. I've been on 4-point charges. I know how much your time is in demand, especially in these holiday seasons. So being prepared in this way is going to hopefully help you enjoy that more and address some of the concerns around rushing around and the commercialization of the season. So let's get into some specifics on Advent. My focus really is on, in part, some of the historical pieces that might be meaningful, but also from our tradition, what do the Wesleys, when I say the Wesleys, I mean both John and Charles, and you'll see in a little bit why Charles is perhaps the more important interpreter of Wesleyanism for the Christmas season. A lot of the resources that I'm pulling on are official United Methodist resources. I'll show you as we come to the end some of the resources that are available to you throughout the year through discipleship ministries and other places, and also in the program itself. So Advent as a season was well known to the Wesleys. Advent has been a practice of the church since, at least in various places, the 5th century. The practice of kind of the 4 Sundays of Advent has been around since around the 15th century or so. The current practice that we have of how we structure these 4 Sundays of Advent is relatively more recent, in the 150 years, in terms of how we think about the particular text that we're reading from the lectionary. I will say that in the planning document and some of the things that I've given you, I've provided the lectionary readings. Typically in these holiday seasons, if we attend to a lectionary reading, those assigned texts for those Sundays, you're going to get a pretty good sense of, what traditionally the church has anticipated and expected out of these seasons. You may choose to go a different direction and preach more thematic during the seasons, but my encouragement would be to at least attend to some of the lectionary texts during the Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany season, because it will add, that traditional character to the season, and it'll connect you with other churches that are doing similar things. So the original conception of Advent was, in essence, another Lent called St. Martin's Lent that ran from about the middle of November, if you will, through the end of the year, another 40-day period of time of preparation that ended on Epiphany, when those who are going through the preparation period would be baptized. So Epiphany became like another type of Easter. The reason for this was, in that 5th century time, after the Christianization of Rome, there were a lot of people seeking to convert to Christianity. And so they actually needed more time to prepare people for conversion and baptism. And so St. Martin's Lent came around during that Advent season of the year to add another preparatory time. So there are still some churches who practice baptisms on Epiphany. And that is a very old tradition. It may not be something you've ever done, but it is part of the Christian tradition that the Advent season is also a season of preparation for baptism and a life of faith. The shape that Advent takes now is primarily one of anticipation, and anticipation of 2 kinds. And this is where the lectionary readings sometimes seem not to resonate with the season that we expect. We expect the Advent season to be all Christmas, when in fact the Advent season is a different period of time. It's not the Christmas season. It's a period of time of anticipation. So typically the first two Sundays in Advent, and sometimes also the third Sunday in Advent, have texts in the lectionary that are more eschatological in flavor. They're about the return of Christ, about the day of the Lord that is coming. If you think about it, in addition to, sometimes the third and also the fourth Sundays of Advent, where we have readings about the Christ child coming into the world, these are the same kinds of things, right? Where both the eschatological element and the incarnational element are all about God being seen, right? In fact, the word Advent in Latin is adventus, in Greek is parousia, which is where we get the second coming idea from, right? The language of Jesus coming again is the parousia of Jesus. And so even the language of Advent points to Christ coming into the world. So following, Christ the King or the Reign of Christ Sunday, which this year happens the Sunday before Thanksgiving, it certainly does make sense to talk about, how we anticipate Christ the King or the Reign of Christ to be seen and known again. And so you'll see in the lectionary readings these emphases on the coming again of Jesus, and then it shifts very quickly, and sometimes it seems abrupt, to the incarnation of the Christ child. But I encourage you to see that as one continuum of the same thing. They're both talking about, how do we see God now? How has God made God's self known in Jesus? How will God make God's self known in Jesus? So that's the Advent season flavor. In the Wesleyan tradition, I'm going to point you to a non-Christmassy sermon as a way to think about how, in the Wesleyan tradition, we understand how we see God. And that's Wesley's sermon on the means of grace. And if you've never read a Wesley sermon from beginning to end, you might not know that they can be really boring. And you might not also know what you would do if you heard someone preach it. Because if you try it for yourself one day with some people around you, say, I'm going to preach a Wesley sermon to you, it's just really awkward. But it's not clear that, Wesley was a one who followed his text directly. He probably used it as a guide. And, you can't be a successful and enthusiastic preacher responding to the crowd just by reading from your text. So he was prepared, but I think he also was extemporaneous as he preached. But this sermon on the means of grace speaks to, how do we know God? How do we see God in the present? We encounter God in prayer. We encounter God in worship. We encounter and see God in Scripture. We experience God in the sacraments. And we experience God when the people of God are together in Christ's name. So perhaps a way you could look and lean into how we see God in this Advent season is to talk specifically about those means of grace, and do some work in talking together about how we experience and use those means of grace in our present moment as ways that we see and anticipate the coming of the Christ into our life, and experiencing the coming of Christ into our life. Just give it a shot. It might not ring true for you, but it might. So that's just a recommendation, that you look at that sermon on the means of grace. The Advent wreath. How many of you have Advent wreaths that you use in your congregations? That is actually a pre-Christian display that was Christianized by the Scandinavians in an effort to display fealty to gods who controlled the sun. As somebody said, on the 22nd, it starts getting light again. So these wreaths were set up in homes and other places as an offering to the sun, if you will, in order that the light would come back. And so this was Christianized primarily in Germany and other parts of Scandinavia. And worked its way into the Western tradition of the church through the Moravians, which Wesley was heavily influenced by. And so we have these Advent wreaths where each of the Advent Sundays we have a liturgy and a prayer that goes with it. And, sometimes we'll actually hand a mic to a child to do those Advent readings. And, if you're really brave, give the lighter to the child and let them light the thing. But the Advent wreath can be a way to expand other ways of thinking about the Advent season outside of some of the lectionary readings. So love, joy, peace, hope. You can see I put in the planning document the theme for each of the Advent readings that I also supplied from Discipleship Ministries. That third Sunday is a Sunday where you light the pink or rose colored candle. And that's a long tradition of recognizing that particular Sunday as one of rejoicing. All right, so that candle just represents joy and rejoicing. So you'll find a link to that Advent wreath liturgy in the planning guide itself in the doc file, so you can just control click on that and it'll take you right over. Also, I think I included it in the drive this morning as well as a PDF. So all of that is available to you. So that's Advent. What about Christmas? Again, we like to collapse Advent into Christmas and, think it is, this is one season when it's actually two distinct seasons of the church year. For John Wesley, there wasn't a lot of celebration around Christmas, and it was a reflection of the Puritan ideals of the 17th century that still remained prevalent in Wesley's time, that church was not necessarily a place for merriment and celebration. That might seem a little odd to us. We want our church services to be full of merriment and celebration, but in that era that was still influenced by Puritan Protestantism in the 17th century going into the 18th century, that sense of merriment just wasn't part of the church life. So John Wesley never actually preached a Christmas sermon. There's not one that we see. In fact, I've searched through some of his journals and letters, and there's not a lot of mention of either Advent or Christmas in his sermons or letters. However, his hymn writing brother, Charles, who, when we talk about Wesleyanism, we also always bring in Charles, because more people have repeated the words of Charles Wesley than they ever have of John Wesley. And they've done that by singing the hymns. So most of your church people, if they grew up in a Methodist tradition, know Wesleyanism through Charles Wesley's hymns. And so Charles actually had two collections of hymns for the Nativity that were sold for a 2-penny little publication that people could buy and sing these hymns during the Nativity season. And so some of our hymns in our hymnal are for the Christmas season are Charles Wesley Nativity hymns that he wrote specifically for the season. So keep that in mind. That one of the ways we encounter Wesleyanism in Christmas specifically is through the hymnody of Charles. I'll send this. You see the link here. You'll be able to click on that when you get this PowerPoint document sent to you after this meeting. It's a nice article from Wesley House in Cambridge about the Wesleys and Christmas. And here's a quick quote from there. Here then is the rationale for celebrating Christmas, drawn straight from the Wesleyan tradition. The incarnation is truly to be seen, and in such seeing we become lost in wonder, love, and praise. So when you extract the way that Charles was thinking about the nativity of the Lord, the Christmas season, that is what comes out, this seeing of God in our midst. And so, lean back into the means of grace. How do we continue to see God during this season of the year? How can we experience God in new ways? And then, of course, we reserve that nice candle right in the middle on the Advent wreath called the Christ candle that we light on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, depending on your celebration. All right. Wesley on Epiphany and Watch Night, really that should be separate. The tradition of the Watch Night service is typically, when it's held in the United States, we see it on New Year's Eve. The Black churches in the United Methodist and Methodist traditions continue to host Watch Night services, and they're an important part of that church's life. Also in the Korean Methodist tradition, Watch Night services are important. I have never actually been to a New Year's Eve Watch Night service, although I've been to an Easter Vigil, which is similar to a Watch Night service in that you're in a position of prayer and praise and singing, until the new day begins at midnight. But for Wesley himself, Watch Nights were part of what the Methodists in Wesley's time did, and he encouraged it. In fact, he would say, please only have these on nights when there's a full moon. And it had nothing to do with, something about revering the moon. It really was, when there's a full moon, it's actually brighter outside at midnight. And so it's safer to walk home. I mean, that was his actual, why he suggested in his journals and letters that if you're hosting a Watch Night service, have it on the night with the full moon. So when you're finished, the people can walk home in safety. I mean, that's a very practical way to think about Watch Night services as a way to pray and worship and be together in a special way at a special time. So typically we see those on New Year's Eve in some congregations. This is a good time to use the Wesley Covenant prayer. I am no longer my own, but thine. It's in the hymnal. It's also in the book of worship. I'm sure you've said it before and had your congregation say it before, but you might remind them that this is a prayer that teaches us who we are and to whom we belong, and renew our covenant with God to live in new ways as God would call us. So back to that first point on epiphany. Epiphany just means sudden awareness, or an awareness that something has happened. Have you ever had an epiphany? It's that light bulb that goes off. You're like, aha. And so this is what epiphany is pointing to. Aha, Christ the Lord is here, right? So in our tradition, the epiphany readings refer to the arrival of the Magi or the wise men to the adoration of the Christ child. And that concludes the traditional 12 days of Christmas that starts on Christmas Day. So don't let anyone sing the 12 days of Christmas around you until Christmas Day. And you can tell them why. And that's because the 12 days of Christmas don't start until Christmas Day. And none of the gifts can actually be given until Epiphany anyway. Because that's when the Magi arrived. So there's your excuse for telling people not to sing that song anymore. But this, epiphany is this sense of sudden awareness, and we have that in the Wesleyan tradition. We have an epiphany awareness as a crucial part of our Wesleyan identity, and that's Wesley's Aldersgate experience, which you may have heard of. He went unwillingly to a prayer meeting on Aldersgate Street in May of some year, and he had this sense that he, at that moment, was truly loved by God. And it was deeply meaningful to him. He wrote about it in his journals for multiple days after, and it became a central part of Methodist identity. In fact, you can go to London today to St. Paul's, the cathedral grounds there at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, and there's a memorial there for the Aldersgate experience, a big flame. And every Aldersgate Day in May, a lot of Methodists from around the world gather there and they sing hymns, and then they do a processional over to the Aldersgate Street site, which must be really weird to Londoners, to see all of these Methodists wandering around singing hymns. on this particular day. But it was a sense of sudden awareness. It was this epiphany that God loves even him. John always felt he wasn't good enough. You can read this in his journals. He felt that, he had never attained the type of goodness that he felt he should as a follower of Jesus. He never really felt that he was converted by God's love until he had this Aldersgate experience. Then he said he truly felt it. And also typical to the Methodist tradition, about a week or two later, he wondered if it was really true. So there's this constant re-experiencing of an awareness of God, and Epiphany points to this. So you might use the Epiphany Sunday to talk about how you've experienced the presence and reality of the love of God today, or how do you practice the means of grace, for instance, to experience the present and the reality of God in days to come. So, and also, as already mentioned, baptisms are something that you can celebrate on Epiphany. Of course, you can do a baptism any day of the week. But Epiphany, if you wanted to kind of structure how baptisms happen in your congregation, you could do them on Easter Sunday and Epiphany and be really traditional about it and have, 40 days of preparation and then do some baptisms.
Epiphany just might not be ideal if you're doing some immersions in the creek or something.
Yeah,
but
that would be
other than that.
Yeah, true. I don't think we've been in a place where you'd have to break the ice in a creek on the first Sunday in January in a while, but it would be quite chilly. Yes, that would be truly a commitment to baptism by immersion if you did it that way. All right. I forgot that I put this slide in here, this quote about the watch night service from Wesley, from his journal in 1742. We had the first watch night in London. We commonly chose for this solemn service the Friday night nearest the full moon, either before or after, that those of the congregation who live at a distance may have light to their several homes. The service begins at half an hour past 8 and continues till a little after midnight. We have often found a peculiar blessing at these seasons. There is generally a deep awe upon the congregation, perhaps in some measure owing to the silence of the night. I just love that last little bit. We can experience deep awe in the silence of the night. And so for Wesley, this is one of the benefits of these watch night services, where you're not rushing to get to the Cracker Barrel before the Baptists do to get your name on the list, right? You have nowhere to be but home. And so you can rest in the love of God and, experience that deep awe in the silence of the night. So I love that quote. So additional helpful planning resources for you. You'll have these links. I'll send them out in a separate email through Chris, and also you'll be able to click through on this PowerPoint deck when you get it. The Revised Common Lectionary at the Vanderbilt Divinity Library is a service that they've provided for decades, and the printouts that you see in the file folder on the lection readings for the season are from the Vanderbilt Divinity Library, and they format them in that way and in several other ways. So you can actually use those, and I've done this in the past. I've printed that out and provided that with the bulletin. So people don't have to look through the Pew Bible. They can just pull it up and see it. And there's also prayer and artwork that are associated with the lectionary readings for each Sunday available there at the Revised Common Lectionary at Vanderbilt. Text Week, I want to make sure you know about textweek.com, which is a great resource for if you're struggling with some sermon ideas or you're not particularly gifted at, leading that children's sermon. If you have one, that children's moment like me, that was something that always escaped me. So I'd go to text week and there'd be something lectionary or seasonal specific for children that I could use there at text week. So there's a lot of material there that you can use in your worship planning, but also, for Sunday school teaching and other types of leadership in the church. Ministry Matters is a website that United Methodist Publishing House created about 20 years ago, and they keep adding material to it. I didn't go in and check to see if it's still subscription based for some of the things. In the past, you had to have a subscription to get access to the Wesley's Works collection and also the New Interpreter Study Bible collection. That may still be the case. But if you want to do some deeper reading in those things without having those volumes on your shelf, maybe a subscription would be okay. But most of the Wesley Works stuff is available either at Northwest Nazarene University's website, which is linked in there, and increasingly through Duke and Emory. The critical edition of Wesley's works are going to be made available through those libraries as well.
Yeah, Matt, most of those resources on Ministry Matters are just accessible by giving an email address, I think,
Okay.
right? And then, but there are sections that you still have to pay for that he's talking about, and you also get access to some of Will Willimon's stuff and some other things. So if you're looking to spend some reimbursable dollars, that might not be a bad place to spend it because you get access to a lot of good Methodist resources.
Yeah. Similar discipleship ministries, your apportionment dollars pay for discipleship ministries work, and their website, which as we close, I'll kind of walk through some of their website material and how it's organized. They have done a fantastic job of reworking their website to make it something you can actually use well for your planning purposes. It's very well done. And so I'm going to show you that when we come back to our conclusion time. All right, before we jump into planning time, are there any questions or thoughts about the presentation on Advent, Christmas, and Epiphany before we move forward? All good? Okay, so I'm not sure how Zoom's going to do it because Zoom makes its own decisions about breakout rooms. But I have 10 screens. One is my second computer where I kind of monitor all the others goings on that I can't see on my other screens. So there's 9 plus Marie's group. So what I'll do, I'll try and create 3 breakout rooms. And it might just assign me to one. I can't ever really figure out exactly how it's going to assign the co-host somewhere, but we'll figure it out. So we'll break out into these smaller groups. Note there are 4 Sundays in Advent. There's Christmas Eve, and if you have a Christmas Day service, you have that as well. There are 2 Sundays in Christmas. All right, the first and second Sunday after Christmas. That first Sunday is the Sunday before the new year. That can be a watch night style service if you want to use some of those watch night materials in the morning time. You can certainly do that. And the second Sunday after Christmas is Epiphany Sunday. So you can use materials for Epiphany on Epiphany Sunday, unless you have a separate Epiphany service. One second. I thought I'd turn that off. All right, so that's what you have. You have basically 7 services to plan. Unless you do a Christmas Day service, then you have 8. If you do a separate watch night on New Year's Eve, then 9. And if you have an Epiphany service on Epiphany Day, you have 10. So, I mean, the decisions are yours. How many services you want to plan in a 7-week, 6-week period of time. But minimally, there are 7 services compacted in that 6-week period of time. That's a lot. That's a lot to ask of a preacher and a worship team. So I'm going to give you we'll set it for 45 minutes to do some of the planning work. Pull up that worship planning doc that's in the Google Drive. My recommendation is download it if you have Microsoft Word on your computer, because it's formatted for Microsoft Word. And then in your groups, just go Sunday by Sunday. Spend about 5 minutes on each Sunday, maybe 6 if it gets interesting. Share ideas with each other. What would you preach about this Sunday? Are you doing something thematic rather than lectionary? And if you are, then how are you going to approach that theme? Share those ideas with each other. And in that way, we become better together and we plan well together. Does that sound good to you all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
Any trouble accessing the planning guide that came in the drive?
I'm still looking for it. Was it in an email?
It was sent in an email by Chris this morning. And there's a link.
Okay.
About 9 o'clock this morning.
Okay.
I can also, just give me 1 second, I'll drop it in the chat so you can
Oh,
find
I
it.
see. Okay. I picked it up. Advent Liturgy, Advent Christmas Epiphany, in PDF and Word. I found it. Okay.
Yeah. That's it. All right. Well, where did my Zoom go? There you are. Okay, you ready? I'm going to do these breakout rooms. I'm going to stop share. And I'm going to create 3 rooms. That's 2 to 3 participants per room is what it's saying to me. So let's see what happens. If things don't work well on this, and you kind of get lost in the Zoom ether, which has happened in breakout rooms when I click it, just leave the presentation, leave the meeting, and come back in, and then we'll find you. Okay, you ready? Here we go. But here they come. Well, did you all figure out all of the issues of the church?
What issues?
Michael, I know you said something, but you're muted.
Ignorance is bliss.
Where'd you go?
You're muted.
Michael, you're still muted.
All right, it came on my screen that said host muted me, so I don't know. I'm not a Zoom expert at all, so
I didn't want to hear from you any longer, Michael. No,
well,
just
I got
kidding.
a lot of that with my meeting last night, so yeah. Can you hear me now, at least, I hope?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. All right.
You're back.
So we're all back. So I wanted to give a few minutes together to discuss and share through these this worship planning document and other material, maybe that you shared in your group that you thought would be talking. Michael, I see you're already unmuted. So what kind of thoughts did you have about the work in the breakout room?
It was actually good because Lebanon, the one church I had carried over from last year's charge, did the Advent wreath, so that was my first experience ever doing it. However, they didn't want to do a Christmas Eve service, because I guess they did something about going to visit their families or something in the cemetery, but I'm not sure exactly if that played a role in the Methodist tradition or not. I got 2 new churches this year added to that, but they just have so many things that they've done a certain way, and they've changed and shortened and muted things that, like the Lord's Prayer and the affirmation of faith and communion, they've all been changed and have different wording and paraphrasing. And so I haven't brought any of that up yet. So unfortunately, even after last night's not so fun meeting, I'm going to have to bring that up and see how they want to handle Advent this year. Just some of the way people are talking, I don't know if they're going to want to do it. So I just got 2 very unhappy churches. And some of that is unhappy with me. They like the old lady, they like the old pastor better. And then I just got some other comments that just weren't really anything to do with preaching or the service. They were just more of a personal comment or attack, whatever you want to call it. So I'm just dreading that conversation. I enjoyed doing with Lebanon, but I don't know if they're going to do it at all. So it's a conversation I'll probably have this week, but it's just not going to be a fun one. So we'll see how it goes.
I would encourage you to lean into joy in that conversation.
Yep.
You know,
I don't know.
Together we experience the grace of God, and it's not altogether easy.
I hear you. I don't know if it's my phone or your phone, but on this end, you're cutting in and out. So I'm not sure if it's mine or yours.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out on mine too a little bit.
Huh.
Good. I'm glad I didn't break Zoom then. I got an IT degree, but Zoom was nothing I took any skill tests in. So,
yeah.
Whew.
Charlotte, did you have any observations you could share?
Again, you're cutting out, Matt. I can't hear you.
I was hoping you could offer some observations.
Okay. Well, in our group, we discussed about the lighting of the Advent wreath in different traditions, how everyone in their churches, how they have been doing, how they, either the pastor has to select families or the church does it or the lay leaders pick for the candlelight readings. And that has sometimes been an issue in the past. And so how do we do it smoothly, talking about those things. But also there was another thing we discussed about if we want to hold a service of lessons and carols, should it be a part of the 4 Sundays, Advent Sundays, or should it be a separate service? Or can it be even the beginning of the new year, with the Holy Communion? So I'm really planning on having that starting in the new year because this year we have 5 Sundays. Usually 5th Sunday could have been a service of lessons and carols, but I really want to start off the new year with the service of lessons and carols. And will that be okay? So I'm just thinking about all the various options as I'm planning for the upcoming season. Some of those things we discussed, and then also about the Holy Communion liturgies that we have, especially for Christmas service, Christmas Eve candle lighting service, something that Jim told us. That was a really beautiful idea of, maybe Jim, you want to say that a little bit more of, you want to share it with the entire group. Yes. But yeah, those things.
Well, thank you, Charlotte. What about Jim? You have something?
Yeah, actually, with the candlelight service, we do that. We have a 4-point charge, and we do that as a combined worship service, and it's probably one of the most well-attended services of the year. And it also gives we make sure that it's publicized so that it gives those people that need to get in that last-minute visit to church for the year, they can come on that service too. So we are able to do that. We also talked about a watch night. And we have been doing watch night services in the afternoons. because we have so many people that don't like to drive at night, or it's such a rural area, it's uncomfortable. But we do our Wesleyan watch night on New Year's Eve day, and then we stay and have fellowship time, games and movies, and just a time for people to be able to look forward to the new year in their own way, without being out at night. But it's a good renewal opportunity, and we've even done a remember your baptism as part of that.
Great. How's my connection now? Can you hear me now okay? I did get an unstable network warning, so I'm not sure why that happens. Thank you, Jim. Yes, I mean, making adaptations based on the needs of the congregation, moving a watch night service to a time where they can participate in a program like that, in a service like that, but also feel comfortable in the work that they're doing and their participation in the church. That is an absolutely wonderful move to make. Well, let's see. How about Reverend Marie? How about your group there? Do you have any observations for us? Let me see if I can unmute you. All right, we got you now.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? So I had shared in our group that my focus, this is my second appointment here at Mount Pisgah. So my focus last Christmas and Advent season was on sharing the sermons on the things for each Advent candle, hope, joy, peace, and love. And so in our group, we did go through the passages for each of those Sundays and share with each other how we saw the passages speaking to us and individually. And also DJ had mentioned, how does it look as we're speaking to the community about hope, love, peace, and joy, and sharing from those specific scripture passages. And in some of the passages on the third Sunday in Advent, it spoke of peace and love. I think that was, peace and love. So I like to bring about the visual aspects of worship as well, because I used to do education in the hospital setting. And I know for adult learners, sometimes it's not only reading, but also being able to see what's being spoken as well. So putting those visual aspects of worship on the communion table or on the altar, or also along the sanctuary walls, so that it becomes not only something that you hear, but when you look at something that reminds you of a particular scripture reading or reminds you of the theme for that particular Sunday.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other thoughts from your room full of folks?
This is my work part of the worship committee. And so this is, I know for the worship committee, I believe it's been helpful to see the process that I go through to help to plan the worship. But I want them to say something.
Well, I'll speak up. I'm Gloria. The one thing that I have really learned from Pastor Marie is how she explains the things that we're doing, even if it's something in the Bible or something that, like I said, when we did the Advent, we'd never done it before, but she explained everything to us as to why it is Advent, and like the joy and the peace and the hope. And we had put our letters and things together and had them on the wall. The experience that's for me that's been with her, that she has explained things to me so that I can understand them. You know, not just reading about it and not knowing why we need to understand what we need, why we need to understand what it is that we know. I guess that's the way I want to put it, because like I said, we've done a lot of things, but she always makes sure that we understand why we do what we do, and that's what's important to me.
Great. Thank you. Let's see, James, Lynn, or BJ, do you have any thoughts you want to share?
I just want to share that I really appreciate the feedback that Mount Pisgah gave us, in that they reminded me, not to make assumptions. That explanation, is important in ways that connect with others, and I am grateful for their feedback.
Thank you, Lynn. James?
Well, I got a little bit excited about having the watch night service in the afternoon. I've never thought of doing that. But, that's something that Jim mentioned, and I'm kind of looking forward to it.
Great. Wonderful.
Might even play a game of bingo or something.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about how we found the themes in those particular passages, and I was challenged them to begin to think about preaching and worship planning. So it was good to talk our way through some of the passages and see where we can find the hope, love, joy, and peace in the lectionary, and how we can begin to think through that.
Great.
BK had also lifted up something from their cabinet meeting of the practice of being and not just doing. Of the practice of being in ministry rather than always doing, and that was something that we explored as well. And the difference, he also mentioned exploring the difference between joy and happiness, because they are different.
Yes. In fact, John Wesley himself often talked about happiness as something distinctly different from joy, and he contrasted it with the heaviness of the heart. So the happiness of the heart is the contrast that we receive through God's grace. We receive the happiness of the heart, and so it's like this sense of release of burdens that creates the heaviness of the heart. When the grace of God releases those, then we experience happiness, which can lead us into a joyful experience. Sarah Lancaster has a book on that topic, and I can't remember the exact title, but happiness is in the title. So if you're interested in reading more on that, that's a good little short read. So let me share a couple short thoughts with you, final thoughts, and then I'm going to show you some of the quick resources. So you should see my screen again there. This is hard for clergy and preachers to do, to refresh through rehearsal. If you're a musician and you've been in a choir that has to rehearse over and over and over again before you ever put it before the public, you know the value of rehearsal.
Yeah.
As clergy, you're doing it every week, but you're doing it, if you will, as a performance every week. So my encouragement to you is, at least a couple times a year, record yourself preaching a sermon and then watch it. It might be uncomfortable and weird for you to do that, but we ask our ordinands to do that when they submit material to the Board of Ordained Ministry. So, let's do that ourselves. Let's every now and then record ourselves and look at what we're doing. We might be doing things that are distracting from the message that we just don't know because we're not seeing it. So refresh yourself, especially before these seasons of the year when people tend to think about coming to your church. Refresh yourself through rehearsal before that time. And that will help you refine that delivery style. As you look at what you're doing, you might see things that you could do that would help your presentation, your preaching to be received better. Looking at your pacing, your tone, and your emphasis on how you move through a message. And always remember that we live in the broad Wesleyan tradition, and that we have a lot of resources to describe who we are. We don't really necessarily have to turn to so many other resources to figure out who we are, because we're Wesleyan, and that is a rich and deep soil that we live in as Methodists. There is a lot there. So I want to show you some of the ways that you can find what's there. Give me just a quick second. This is why my other computer is up, because I had all the links on this computer. So now I'm gonna turn my camera off so you don't have to look at the side of my head. Just a quick second here. Where did it go? There. So this is Discipleship Ministries. This is where you can find the Advent lighting liturgy, as well as so many other things. If you just hover your mouse over worship planning, look at all this stuff that comes up. Right. All right. And you click on the thing you're looking for. We've talked a little bit about music, but say you're looking for, I need some hymns for this coming up Sunday. You can go find that in here in the worship and planning calendar. There's piano accompaniment recording. So maybe you don't have a pianist at your congregation, or the one that you have called in sick. You can go find some of those on here that you can use. So Discipleship Ministries, your church pays for through your apportionments. Go and use it. There's a great deal of material here. So let's just pick like October 27th. And so you pick a Sunday that you want to work on, and say you're preaching the lectionary. You'll see it has the lectionary references over here to the right. And then you want some hymn suggestions for those lectionary passages. You click on that, and it brings up this chart. And it has all the different kinds of hymnals that we use in our congregation, with numbers and suggestions for songs based on the text that you want to preach on. This is a resource you should use every week, I think.
Can you go back to where you found that at? Just make sure I got that right.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Zoom is in my way. Let me move that out. It put the bar right.
Distance.
So if you go to worship planning.
All right. What's that main website? Is that UnitedMethodistChurch.org?
UMCDiscipleship.org. And you'll have all these. Well, I'll send all these links out when the meeting's concluded.
Okay. Well, I found it now, so I'm with you.
Yeah. And, just spend some time figuring out how it's organized, and it is just a wealth of material. I'll send this out too. This is you have this in the PowerPoint deck. This is the article on seeing the incarnation from Wesley House about the Charles's hymnody and how we seek to be seen and see God in the Advent season. I also sent you this link to the origins and development of Advent that I found at this CatholicIreland.net. It's a really long article, but quite good if you want to know more about the background of it. Similarly, here's a history of the Advent wreath. I'll send that too. Discipleship Ministries also has, where did the season of Advent come from? So pretty much any season or Sunday of the year that you want to look up, go search for it in Discipleship Ministries, and I guarantee you'll find something there. Like, what is the history of Advent? So again, there's a lot of material that we have available to us because of our Methodist connection. And so I want to encourage you to use those as you plan. So you'll get another email with a lot of links in it, as well as the deck. And shortly, probably in a week, we'll send out a survey about this workshop to get your feedback on it, because we are planning on doing a workshop like this for Lent and Easter. And, certainly do need your feedback in order to improve what we do. Also coming up next month, November 11th, Chris, I think that's the right day. Monday, November 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. We're going to have another workshop on end of year fundraising for your church. So you'll want to, of course, invite your colleagues to come, invite your finance people to come. And we'll talk about some strategies for end of year fundraising. And it's just an hour long presentation. So I hope you'll join us for that as well. We're now at noon. Any final thoughts before we log off and move on with our day?
Just pray I have a good conversation, because last night didn't go well.
Yeah.
We'll be praying for you, Michael.
Yeah.
Prayers, Michael. Prayers.
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking this seriously and jumping online and beginning to think about Advent and Christmas and Epiphany, the important season and seasons, and it's good to get started a little bit ahead of time and begin to plan and think and practice and all the things so that we can do it well. So thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate each one of you, and God's blessings on you.
Bye, Chris.
Thank you.
Yes, God
Thank you all.
blessings to all.